Welcome everyone on today's webinar. We'll speak about Newired and Polarion. This webinar is also co-hosted by Nextedy, a Newired partner for Polarion. And what we want to speak about today is we want to give you a little introduction about what Newired is. But most of the time, we'll present live our product, how it looks from the end user perspective, and how easy it is to create the actual guidance. We will try this time to be very practical and show you many of the different examples. And we will finish with the Q&A session. My name is Jiří Volek, and I host this webinar as a VP of Product Management at Newired. So for those who do not know anything about Newired, who we are. So we set up the company to close or at least reduce the distance or the gap between technology, between software and us, people that actually use the technology, because we believe that this is really something which is extremely important these days. And why is it so important? Because in reality, if you check the statistics, many of the so-called digital transformations fail. What kind of failure do we speak about? It doesn't mean that everything is not running at all, but very often the expectations are not fulfilled. The return of investment is not achieved. And we believe that one of the reasons why this happened is due to the end user perception. And if you ask yourself, what does it really mean to the end user? We can find out something like what you see on the screen now, which is so-called adoption curve or learning curve. So the users, to start using any technology, they need to learn how to use it. They need to be trained, but we all forget, and we need to be retrained. And then there is a change. There is a new tool, new process, new regulation, or just a change to make the process more efficient or effective. And because of that, then comes the frustration. So the people need to be retrained again and again. And we are thinking that there is really a right time to do it differently. And because of that, we bring to the market a solution we call Newired, which helps you to attach an interactive step-by-step guidance layer to any web application, including Polarion. This is what why we are here today. So you can actually learn by doing directly in the app, not miles away. And I want to, in the next 5 minutes, to really dive deeper into practical examples, how it looks on Polarion, and then we'll proceed and we will actually learn also how we can create these guides or tutorials. So let me switch now from the slides to my Google Chrome browser, and I open the standard Polarion demo server. So almdemo.polarion.com. This is the demo server provided by Siemens. Because Siemens is one of our customers, they use actually Newired as a tool that helps people to get familiar with Polarion when they start evaluating it. So we have helped them to deploy such a view on top of the standard Polarion interface, which can actually really help anyone to get familiar with the basic Newired Polarion concepts. Collaboration, traceability, or planning. Let's start with the first chapter, the secure collaboration. And we see that there is, or in my browser, in the Google Chrome, on top of the public demo server, so on top of the standard Polarion server, we have this, what we call an overlay, because this renders above the application, and it really guides me through an onboarding procedure. So what I do, I just follow the guides as they pop up on the screen, and I read what's going on. So this is the system requirement specification. The page itself is a live report page. So I select it. So as you see, as I'm following the guide, the system actually follows me and tells me what is it on the screen? So this is a live document. It is much like Microsoft 365 or online Word, etc. It tells me that every change is tracked. And now I can click here and this will open the so-called preview. So we see here that one of the use cases for the Newired guidance is really to explain what are the different applications about and do what is called the basic onboarding on a new application. But we see more and more that customers are actually using it differently, and that was always the mission from us. So now what I will show is a different Polarion server. In this case, we use the Nextd demo server. So we are again in Polarion, but we are in a different. Let's go to the repository home. We see here I have this help menu, and I will show you later how easy it is to actually deploy it and get the same kind of manual on your Polarion server, which tells me now, because I'm not in the project, that I should select the project first. So I click here. I should open project or project group. It explains to me that the green ones are the folders, the blue are the projects. So let's type the e-library here. You're now in the select project, okay? And now I want to do something. So for example, I want to, I don't know, create a new work item. So again, with every guide, I get an introduction, what would I learn? And it really tells me again, step by step, how to do a specific use case or an operating procedure. Of course, this could be really trivial. We see that if we are in a different context, so if I open, for example, a requirement specification document, and I close here the filter, we see that here under the menu, I would have a different option. So if I start searching, for example, for Word, it really tells me it offers me a different tutorials, which we haven't seen when I was not in the context of a live document. So how to export to Word. I should click here on the gear icon, click Word round trip, click export documents, and it explains me really in the details what should I do, and you see that I can have multiple elements on one screen, etc. So you see that this is not just about being trained, but anytime I forget about something, I can ask this online assistant for help, and the assistant will really suggest step by step what should I be doing to achieve what I need to do. So from the end user perspective, this is what Newired is about, and let's say dive deeper into the product. Go back into the slides. So what are the common, let's say, benefits of having such a guide on Polarion? First, it's really about the change management. So we see that it's not really only about introducing a new app, but we have customers who are using Polarion already for a couple of years, and they need to make sure that they can roll out the changes in the processes effectively, roll out new people, new projects on top of Polarion. So it's about really embracing the change. But it's not just about having people trained so they don't waste time on, let's say, just finding the right way to perform something. It's also about improving data quality. We can speak about that later, also how we create a so-called data validation. But what we have learned is that you should not, let's say, just train the people on the tool, but you want to train them to use it correctly. And there is a nice example. If I want to train the people how to create a user story in Polarion, I can just train them in a way as you have seen. So I click here, click there. But at the end, they need to understand what is a right format to track it. So me as a user, I want to do this, to do that. This type of suggestions which really helps me to enter the right data, is what really improves your data quality. Or we can also have a data validation in the sense that if you enter this severity and you have this component, something else needs to be tracked. So it's not only about the training, but it's really also about letting people know what data they should enter into the system. So now let's dive deeper into the product. And the first thing what I want to speak about is actually how do we create these tutorials? How do we create these newer journeys? Because if I'm saying that we want to embrace a change in Polarion, in the tool chain, it must be also possible to adjust these guides and tutorials easily. That's why we have a solution called Newired Editor. Newired Editor is a desktop application which actually includes a browser. In this case, on purpose, I've loaded pretty old Polarion version. This is a version 19, so rolled out in 2-3 years ago. Why I'm doing it? Because I want to show you that we can create a guide that works on this old version of Polarion and roll it out on very new version of Polarion, and it will still work. So let's create some of these, let's see, walkthroughs with our editor. So let's do the same stuff that you have seen before, how to create a work item. It's an easy one, but usually, I mean, the easy is also simple to understand. So we want to add a first step. The first step will be a dialogue. So welcome. You will learn how to create a new work item. I'll show you more complex stuff in a minute. So the first step, I think, would be that the people need to click here on the work items topic. So we want them to click here on the work items. So you see, I visually select an element on the screen. I want the user to click on it. So you see, it's very visual interface, no coding, no technical steps. What's next? So the next step, once the people click on work items, is that they should click here on this plus symbol. So we want them to click on the plus. Again, we want them to click. You can say click on plus. Oops. Let me just edit it, fix it. Good. What else? We want them to select a work item type. So again, we want to add a callout. Again, I just visually select this panel and I say, please select a work item type. Each work item has a different fields and properties that you will be able to fill in later. Actually, you know, we can do too many things now. We don't want to click them on the panel. They need to select any of these elements. Actually, what it does, it changes the URL. It goes to a different page where user can select a right work item type. So what we see here is that between each step, you can select a so-called different transition, like in PowerPoint. Now we have been having the transition like click here. On the first one, it was actually transition called next. So you need to click on next button. Now we are using a transition change URL. The last step would be here, I should enter a title. Enter title. You see here the transition is edit input. So one, I can just, let's see, keep it here, or I can change it to any other transition. So let's try it. because as I said, the Newired editor contains the browser, which holds my Polarion, so I can actually try it if it works as expected. So here we have the first welcome screen. I click next. It tells someone, hey, please click on work items here. I click here. I should click here on this plus symbol. Yeah, I should select my work item type. Okay, and I should type my title, typed. And that's it. That's what we wanted the user to learn in a basic example, but without any coding, without anything. Okay, now the question is, okay, this is an editor, so how exactly I can take the solution like this and deploy on a real Polarion version? As we are in the editing interface, because quality is really important, it means that I can do any kind of the tests here. I can create the new guides. I can modify the existing, but all the changes are not yet rolled out to the end users. To make the changes effective, I need to actually set the status to active, and we go to the management interface called Newired Portal. In the Newired Portal, you're seeing that there are some pending changes. What does it really mean? It means that if I go into my Polarion server and I, as an end user, now if I refresh my screen, I'll see that there is still not this journey that we have created a couple of minutes ago. So this is ALM demo. So actually I want to go here on this server, and we'll see that the journeys are not yet there. Let me just expand it here. Let me just go refresh it again. Yeah. So if I click here, help, we see that here we don't have our menu how to create a new work item. So to do it, we need to trigger the publishing process. So I need to submit the actual changes. There was some fake journey removed and one other is added. And let's just publish it. I'll speak about the versioning system a bit later. Now we are on a completely different Polarion server, even on a different version. I can click here on the help, and here is how to create a new work item. Welcome, you will learn how to create a new work item. I should click here on the work items. I should click here on the plus. I should click here on the task, and I should enter a title. We have seen two things. We have seen the way how to create the guides, but you have seen also one fundamental benefit. And this is that the guide that we have created almost on prehistorical version of Polarion still runs on the very latest ALM 20 R1. What it means is that this is what we call robustness. So if you go back to our slides, if you remember, I was speaking about simplicity, about how to make it easy to create the content. But actually, it's equally important, not just to make it simple, but also make the content robust. So when we create something that works today, it needs to continue working tomorrow, no matter what is the let's say version of the target application. What if the left side navigator contains one or two more items in the navigator, if the colors are changing, if there is a new browser version? So this robustness is really something which we consider extremely important. So from technical perspective, we enable anyone to create such a content with very little technical skills, without any coding, focused on the knowledge, how we do it, because we enable to configure our technology specifically for different apps, for Teamcenter, for Polarion, for Salesforce, Workday. So Newired can be used on any application, and we configure it so we actually understand how the application is built. Does it have the auto-generated IDs? auto-generated class names in HTML, different CSS selector strategies. So actually what we really do is we configure the system once, and then the content author can create the guides easily for any web application. A second question you may have is actually, okay, so I've created this data using the Newired editor. It runs on any Polarion version. Okay, where are the data actually stored? This question is often asked because the people are worried about security and privacy. To simplify the answer, we let it up to you to decide where you want to have also these training or tutorial data. We enable to host Newired completely on our cloud or together or on your on-premise server. You will learn later that we also provide a so-called analytical module. What is the analytical module? The analytical module contains the information about the success of the training data. So are the people actually going through these tutorials? Do they pass it or do they fail? Do they drop off because they don't consider it important? Let's see, first, this analytical module is completely optional. So you can enable it or disable it. Second, it really holds only non-personal data. So we don't store anything personal, no matter if you store data in our cloud or on your premises. We fully respect the general rules like GDPR, etc. We already spoke about this part, to control the content publishing. What is it about? You have already seen that anytime we perform a change in our technology, anytime we actually modify the data, we create a new version. And to go live with this version, you need to review the changes before they go live. You need to test it. Maybe things goes wrong and you publish something that contains a problem. So you want to roll back to previous versions. You need to test it on different browsers, not just on a single browser. You want to do it with some focus group. We really support all these different scenarios. And why we do it? We do it because very often we see, especially in the Polarion area, is that the functional safety standards do not apply only to the products you use or the products you develop, like Polarion or like your embedded software, but you also need to take care of how the people are actually trained. And you need to make sure that the training specifications or the training procedures are also reviewed, electronically signed in a document management system, etc. So actually what we can do, we can export the version into Microsoft Word with the screenshot of every step in the operating procedure, so you can electronically sign it and confirm that yes, this is how we train our users, we have tested it, and this is really the way how it should work, and this is what you also share with the regulatory bodies. I've been speaking again a while to the slides, and I want to just dive deeper into the actual technology. So I will go back into the editor and we will give you a highlight about some of the more advanced concepts that we baked into our technology. So first, you see that there are some of these examples that I've been showing you in the first phase, in the first couple of minutes. First one was, for example, the select a project. And if you actually run it here, so it tells I should click here, I should open a project or project group, I should now select one available, so I select here the product group. And you see, because I've selected a project group, it tells me not a project. You have not selected a project but project group, please do it again. So I need to go again here, click here, open the project group, and I select now the repository. It again tells me this is not a project. You really need to select a project. So I go here, I click again, I click at the project group, and now I select a project. So you see, we understand that actually different, let's say, the people often do not follow the procedures exactly as they are taught. So what you need to do when you are creating these procedures, you need to be ready that because this runs on top of the real application, sometimes the people simply do something different. And how we handle it? We handle it in a way that these tutorials, these guides, are not just let's say, sequential steps that you always need to just go through them from the beginning till the end. So if I actually open the slideshow, you see that I have my standard list of the steps, but they can make an error or may not follow the guides. And that's why there is this step here which says not a project. And what we will see on this step is that first, it has here the category called visibility. So we are saying, hey, this step will be visible only if the URL doesn't contain /project. Because you know that anytime on the project dialog, if you select a project, it navigates to the special URL, which if I have selected a project, it contains the word project in the URL. So, okay, it will show this message that we have seen, you have not selected a project. But how does it happen that it goes back to the previous step? This is exactly what is here, what we call an action. And the action can do a different stuff. It can run another journey, it can stop a journey, or it can jump to another step. So we are saying actually here, okay, if you haven't selected a project, please go back to the step number 1. And now this is important because what I'm saying is that you can have a conditional steps. So some steps appears only under some conditions, and you can have actually actions. Technically, it means because you have conditions, because you have if statements, and because you have an action with go to, you have a programming language. Because with the if statement and with a go to, you can run almost any type of a procedure. We have also seen that some of these tutorials are contextual. So you see here, there is a journey, for example, add user to the project, or here, export a live doc to Microsoft Word. How does it happen that actually when I open this list, it is not here? I have here only create a new live doc. It's because the same language, how you can make a step conditional, applies also to the actual journeys themselves. So we see here is a visibility for a particular live doc. In this case, we were a little bit, let's say, lazy, and we said that these journeys, how to export a live doc, will appear anytime I'm in the so-called wiki space, or I am somewhere in the folders from the Polarion perspective. Then this journey should play. So we see if I go here, I have already a wiki here, so I should be able to export to Microsoft Word, which actually tells me, hey, we have not selected a document first, so please select one. Okay, so I need to select a document. So let me select here. Click next. And actually, this will not continue because in this case, we have seen that we have selected something that was not considered as a valid input. So there are lots of options that you can build in with our editor. We can make the steps conditional. Or you may not only work with tutorials and journeys, you can also build something what we call a tips. And for tips, I have a perfect example. So what if someone has just simply forget about the username and password? Polarion just says, sorry, but your username and password is invalid. No other option. We can add here, what you see here is a tip, which now says lost password, enter your email, and we'll send a recovery link. So I set here my email. And now the system will automatically send to the administrator of Polarion an email that they should send to the user a recovery link. How we do it? We do it because we can actually create the so-called tips. The tips are compared to journeys. They don't have many steps. These are, like, say, a single step gadgets, which can actually have a very complex data on them. So we have also, for example, a survey builder. So we ask the user for an email, but I can also ask them any other questions, okay? So I can really build a questionnaire, a form that I want the user to fill in, and you'll get this data, or you will get this data. So you're seeing that it's really not only about the tutorials and guides, but it's really about complex user acceptance and provide them with the on-screen information or on-screen assistance in a different form anytime I need. Do I want this to appear automatically? Absolutely. I can have auto show. So we say, okay, every time this appears, this message should show up. So how does it really work now? If I actually log in with a correct password, okay, I did it wrong, but you see, again, I got this message automatically now shown. So it's up to me really to control the behavior of this overlay, this guidance layer. Let's go back into the slides and finish with a couple of more pretty fundamental capabilities. Multi-application support. Multi-application support speaks about the reality today, that the people do not need or cannot stay or work with a single tool only. Here is an example from the CRM industry, but we can think about the use case about PLM ALM integration. So I should first create a change request in a Teams Interactive Workspace. Then I need to go to Polarion to assign it to a proper team or iteration, and then I need to go back into the Teams Interactive Workspace to finish and update a dashboard. So you see, to perform my standard operating procedure, I need now to work with the tool chain, Teamcenter and Polarion, or any other combination of different applications, Polarion and Jira, whatever is your reality. And we enable you to actually create a guide that really goes from one app to the other and then back. So Newired is not only about guiding people in the same application, but also guiding them across multiple applications. And not just only across multiple applications, but also giving your users a chance to actually experience these guides and tutorials in multiple languages. So even though Polarion is a single language application, so you cannot have some users in English and some others in Spanish, you can actually enable this training materials to really speak the local language of your user. Or if you use some applications that are really multilingual, so they are translated into multiple languages, you can actually build, or you need to build, just the guides once, and they will automatically work for each and every language variant. As you have seen, that I have been able to create a guide that works on the Polarion 19, and it still continues to run on the Polarion 21. The same thing is that if I would be able to create a guide for the English variant of Trello, I should be able to have the same guide running on the Chinese variant, of course also translated into the Chinese language. And how we do it? We do it in a very, I would say, unique and a smart way, because we enable to set up any number of the so-called translation packs. So you create the guides and tutorials in the editor that I've been showing you in the couple of minutes ago. So I use our studio to visually draw and design these tips and journeys. And then I export the content into a package which is based on the industry standard format called XLIF. This is the industry standard format for the content translation. I send this file to a translator, to my colleague, or to a translation agency. They use these industry standard tools to edit the XLIF files. They provide a translation, they send it back to me. I upload the translation back into the system, and from now on, the translations are being exposed to the end users, and they can start using or following a training in their mother tongue. What's the biggest benefit? It means that the translators do not need to be trained on Newired. They don't need to be trained even on Polarion. You really just send them the raw data, they translate it, you receive the data back, and you deploy it. Last but not least, the business model is very transparent and easy. We enable anyone to actually create the content. So anyone can actually just go and create the guides. What you pay for is the actual usage. So the more users needs to be actually trained, the more you pay, and everything is transparent. What value does it bring? So if we actually ask our customers, what do they see as a key value? First, it's about internal training costs saved. It's really on eliminating the need for people being retrained in the classrooms or online trainings and lose time because they need to be retrained almost every month or a couple of times a year. And also about the fact that it's actually easier to maintain the data with Newired, because as you have seen, I don't need to redo all the screenshots or videos just because the look and feel of the application has been changed. But it's also about making sure that people actually love to use the product more. This is, we mentioned in the beginning, the key business problem is that the customers do not achieve the return of investment or the expected result from the target platform. We just recently signed a deal with one automotive customer of Polarion who actually bought Polarion to support their ASPICE level 2 compliance. And they struggled with it because they were moving from Jira to Polarion, and the end users were actually struggling with the system because of extended complexity, which was partially the Polarion problem, but partially also the problem that the processes has to be more strong to be really ASPICE level 2 compliant. And for the customer, this was not just the question of saving some time on training. For them, it was really important to make sure that the people will actually use the product. And because we have seen that we can deploy these, let's say, journeys into the target application, the end users were actually, they started to use the product more often. And that's actually the biggest benefit I personally see. And last but not least, it's also the fact that you may already have a lot of training assets, videos, tutorials somewhere in PowerPoint or in the PDF. It's stored somewhere in the knowledge base, but no one knows about it because we are all lazy to search for training materials. And what you can do, as I've been showing you these tips, you can actually connect a video, a PDF, contextually from the application, so you can build a tooltip that connects to a specific page or a specific panel in Polarion, and you tell the user, hey, if you want to learn more about approvals, watch this video. And the fact that this is contextually connected into the application just makes it much more likely that the people will watch this video. So you don't need to convert all these videos immediately into journeys. You can just link them first, and this already brings a big value because you would see that the people are just much more likely to click on it and actually see these existing training assets. So the long story short, we have a solution that is simple and easy to use to create these guides and tutorials, but robust enough to work on a different version and survive different changes. Security and privacy is not an afterthought. It's built according to some of the industry standards in let's say industries like automotive or medical or aerospace, where the let's say, versioning of the content, including of versioning of the training content is important. It's not only about being able to actually use it on top of Polarion, but any application, and even more on a tool chain in a multiple languages. And that's what we do. So thank you for that. And now I promise that we also want to make it easy for you to try it. So you remember that I've been showing you on our server some of these data. So some of the let's say tutorials that we have built. So for example, that if I select my e-library project, I have these type of tutorials that we see here to create a work item, etc. So how can you try it? You can try it because there is an extension on the Polarion.com website. So we go to extensions Polarion.com and we search for, I think we search for Newired. We find here an ALM accelerator package. The ALM accelerator package, it enables you to install a so-called browser extension. And what is the browser extension? The browser extension is the one way how you can make sure that this Newired content appears on your screen. So there are actually two different options. As we have seen for the on the ALM demo server, if you go there, if you go to ALM demo Polarion.com today, and you have an account for ALM demo server, you will see this menu here automatically pop up without any browser extension. But or if you would buy a Newired, you can also deploy it in a way that this automatically appears on every user screen. But for testing, or for some apps that you don't really control very well, you can also deploy the Newired with a browser extension. So the browser extension is actually the little plugin that, based on what you are actually seeing, it installs the right help into the target application. Of course, because if Newired is hosted on premises, this will load data from your server. So there is a configuration URL. In this case, you see that it loads data from our server. And as an output of this webinar, we will send you the registration link that you can easily just download or register and download this browser extension. If you download and install this browser extension, you will see the same help menu on top of your Polarion. You can check how it works. If you want more, if you want to actually also experience the way how to create the tutorials and guides, let us know, and we give you also access to the editor, and you would be able to experience the authoring process. That's all what I wanted to speak about today. Let me see if there are any questions. First question is, do you support Firefox? Yes, so basically we support any web application, and the people are different. They use different browsers, different operating systems. So yes, we do support also Firefox. We support Microsoft Edge, the old and new, Chrome, Firefox, Safari. You can load the Newired guides with any browser. If you would go to the ALM demo server, you can try it with your browser, and it will just work. Can I have different guides for different project templates? Yes, I mean, this is the key objective, that the guides are actually based on the processes you use internally in your tool, let's say in your Polarion setup or CRM setup. Doesn't really matter which tool we choose, which also means that let's say on one Polarion server you can maintain a different type of projects, and you can definitely build as we have seen with the visibility rules, a different, let's say, guide for the different processes or for different personas, for different users. So we can also segment them for different servers, different projects, different roles, etc. This is all possible. Can you show the reporting module or reporting portal? Yes. So I mentioned that we have a component that can actually check how are the people using the system. So if I go here to the Newired portal, we see here that we can manage the translations. I see that there is actually an active translation into Spanish, which actually I'm surprised, which means that, yeah, I can actually switch here to Spanish. And here is a journey to select process, and you see here that it starts speaking Spanish. Good, couple of steps. Just first three were translated just to show how it works. But it also contains here the reporting section. In the reporting section, you actually see a kind of statistics, how many users are using it. We don't use this package so much to actually try it. We usually build it just for the webinars. So we see that 13 journeys have been launched. There have been some issues. We can actually see that this select project journey has been executed several times. Actually, how many times? 16 times on the 5th. And what it tells me, that very often the people actually drop off. So what they do is that they start the first couple of steps and then they stop actually using it. You see, some of them, they drop off on the first step. Again, if we show the absolute count, we see that actually 23 users have opened it. 3 people has actually dropped off, so they stopped using these guides. On the second step, just 1 guy has dropped off, all the others succeeded. Here on the third step, we have a slightly higher percentage that 6 of them actually said, yeah, I don't need help anymore. And at the end, 13 people completed this journey from the beginning till the end. And we actually also see how much time it takes them in average on each step. So we see that most of the time they spend on the step number 3, somewhere between 5 to 35 seconds, in average between 10 to 15 seconds. All non-personal data, private data, are not stored in our system, but still pretty good data that can help me to make the guides better, organize the content better, etc. See, where are the questions? What Polarion versions do you support? I try to explain that actually the Newired software has not been developed specifically for Polarion only. Okay, so it runs, this technology runs on any web application. So I open here, for example, the demo CRM application. Okay, now I'm in, and we'll see that in this sample CRM system, I have the a same kind of the help menu with the different colors. So you see that I can adjust the color theme specifically to the target application. And in this case, for example, here I can have a guide to create a new account. It tells me again what to do. I follow it step by step. So Newired is not a product that is specific to one version of Polarion or to 5 versions of Polarion. It's really an application that helps me to create such an overlay for any system, for any platform. Salesforce, Active Workspace from Teamcenter, Workday. We have customers who are using it to build guides for the applications they internally develop, because they usually don't have time to improve the user experience, and they also need people to be trained on these internal apps. So really, you pick your web application, and we can show you in a couple of minutes how easy it is to create the guides for this target platform. Thank you for your time today. Once again, as a follow-up, we'll send the link to the Polarion browser extension that you would be able to test by yourself, or if you would like, we can have a one-on-one demo and show you more details about the editor or agree on the proof of concept, whatever would be your preference. Have a great afternoon.